about football, the Super Bowl is 5 days away. We'll take a deep dive into the tight end matchup with former Mackey Award winner Jake Butt. The NBA trade deadline is 3 days away, and there are a bunch of rumblings around the association. Shams Charania stops by to share the latest. And the Pro Volleyball Federation is well underway, and the Vegas Thrill play their first game on Wednesday. Thrill star Molly McCage will join us to talk everything volleyball. That and more next on The Rally.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to The Rally. Brooke Fletcher here alongside Joshua Perry, and we have Mackey Award winner and former Michigan tight end Jake Butt hanging out with us in studio. Guys, great to see you. I know this is the first weekend without any NFL games, so how did we hold up?
We watched football over the weekend.
Yeah. Certainly wasn't NFL playoff quality football, but
No.
we did watch some football.
Yes, we did.
Senior Bowl.
Watched the Senior Bowl, Pro Bowl. Pro Bowl was fun, right?
It was.
Watching some of the activities. Did you have anything that stood out to you?
It's fun, right? Like, I think we get to see the players' personalities more than we ever get to see them. Like, the hardest part about being a football player is you got the cage around your face. So I always think it's good for those guys to get some face time.
Yeah, to show some face there. I watched the tug of war. Aiden Hutchinson, Michigan guy, he crushed it there. So,
Blue.
all right, well, we're going to talk more NFL later on the show, but we have to actually, we're going to start talking some college football here, and there's a possibility that Bill O'Brien is maybe going to make some moves. He was just named the new offensive coordinator at Ohio State just days ago, but rumors are circulating that he is now in the running for the head coaching job at Boston College. So according to the Columbus Dispatch, O'Brien is a Boston native, and he went to college not far from there at Brown. So what's your take on these reports, JP?
Well, I think Bill O'Brien is a guy who has desired to become a head coach, and we've seen in his past where, he was at Penn State and did a remarkable job considering the circumstances that they were under, and then quickly became the Texans head coach where, they made it to the playoffs more than I think the Texans had ever been in the history of that organization. He was brought in as a guy who was supposed to be the general of the offense at Ohio State. And I think part of the reason why is because of what he brings from a personality standpoint. I think a lot of people would say, and some people complain about Ryan Day's play calling. I think that was the least thing that I would consider as an issue for Ryan Day. I think he needed to become more of a CEO type coach. So you bring in a guy, veteran experience, head coaching experience, he can kind of be the bad cop on the staff. But ultimately, those guys want to run their own programs because they're very strong-willed and they have ideas and aspirations, not to mention being able to have a homecoming of sorts. He spent a lot of his career in Boston. He's a Boston guy. It would make a lot of sense to want to go to BC.
I think this is potentially massive, massive news for Ohio State if he does decide to leave. I mean, the momentum of the offseason has been literally all positive at this point. And the Buckeyes feel as an organization, as a program, that they're ready to go, get over that hump and win a national title. And talent's not the issue in Columbus, JP, to your point. Play calling isn't the issue. Creativity isn't the issue. That's all down pat. But bringing in Bill O'Brien to be your play caller was about so much more, in my opinion. They need someone to sit in that offensive room and make the players uncomfortable. Find a way to get the best out of them in the biggest moments. That's what Bill O'Brien does. That's been the MO throughout his entire career. That's why he's being considered to be a head coach right now. So if he does leave for Boston College, look, this is late in the coaching cycle.
Yep.
How do you replace that with an equal name?
Yeah, I want to echo that point about making people uncomfortable. And you mentioned the players, but the coaches as well, right? Because,
exactly.
If you're Ryan Day and you've built a relationship with a lot of these guys over multiple years and they know you as more of a mild guy when it comes to temperament, if you come in the offseason, you start flipping tables over and screaming at guys, they're going to be like, this is not the coach that I know, and I'm confused by this. But, Bill O'Brien comes in as a guy who's done this before in his career, and now all of a sudden he can yell at the wide receiver coach because his guys aren't blocking on the edges. He can get on the offensive line coach when the guys aren't communicating up front. They're stepping underneath themselves, things of that nature. So I agree with you. It was big to have a guy like that in the room. In this late, they're probably going to have to come with a ton of money to try to poach another coach.
Well, yeah, exactly. So where do you turn to now if he does leave because it is late? He was supposed to take a lot of stress off of Ryan Day when it comes to offensive play calls there. So, where do you turn to? Is there anybody that even is available that you think would be a good fit?
Could it be Chip Kelly?
It could be.
Could it be? Isn't that crazy?
So Chip Kelly clearly does not want to be a head coach, and clearly not at UCLA at this point. And there were rumblings that he inquired about open OC jobs not only in the NFL, but it was revealed over the weekend through reports also in college football. Ryan Day and Chip Kelly have worked together before. Chip Kelly was Ryan Day's mentor. And so I think from a schematic standpoint, it's a really good thing. Chip Kelly, when he was at Oregon, he had top 10 rush offenses every year. I think Ohio State needs a little bit more of that. But I don't know if he's the same temperament that Billy O was going to bring, and that's a problem.
I don't think he is at all. But I will say, he called Iowa. He called Kirk. If you're calling to inquire about Iowa's offensive play calling, you're going to do that for the Buckeyes too.
All right. Well, again, these are just reports about Bill O'Brien possibly going to Boston College there for the head coaching job. We'll continue to follow that story. But now let's switch gears to the NBA because there's tough news just continues to come for the Sixers here. Joel Embiid, he has been out with a knee injury. So Shams Charania, he's been all over this story, and he's kept us updated throughout the past few weeks or so. So, Shams, what more can you tell us about his injury?
Joel Embiid has a torn meniscus. Specifically, it's a displaced flap tear, and he's had multiple doctors, multiple evaluations, and he's decided he will undergo surgery. I'm told that the Sixers' hope is that Embiid will be out 1 to 2 months. That's the minimum time that they're expecting him to be out. That's the best case scenario, a return late in the season. But only the severity of the tear, the procedure itself will determine exactly if a full repair is needed during that surgery. And if a full repair is needed, his timeline is going to be significantly longer than 1 to 2 months. And this is just devastating for the Sixers, but also Joel Embiid. He was playing at an MVP level. I think he was on pace to win MVP, win the scoring title again this season. Now his season's in jeopardy, and just knowing Joel Embiid and talking to people in Philadelphia over the last several weeks, as he's been dealing with this knee soreness and the swelling, they say that he's been managing his body, he's been gearing up for the playoffs. He's only wanted to win a championship and making sure he goes into the playoffs with his body 100%. And so for him, it's got to be disappointing for his body to be failing him now, and he will be out at least 1 to 2 months with this meniscus tear. And JB, I understand you've had several meniscus injuries. What do you know about a meniscus flap tear? What do you think is the course of action here for Joel Embiid?
So there's a few things working here, and I've torn my meniscus 6 times. And meniscus is unique in the sense where when you hear of a flap tear, you really have 2 options. You could stitch it up, but stitching it up, it means you're non-weight bearing for like 6 weeks. Anytime they stitched and tried to repair my meniscus, I'd be on crutches for 6 weeks. Then you start the rehab, which could be another 6 weeks for return to play. The other option is to scope it. So you just cut that entire flap out. That way there's no repair. You don't have to wait for the blood flow to return. In those cases, I was able to return in about 2 to 3 weeks. For a guy like Joel Embiid, it'd probably be a month minimum, to your point, Shams. The issue is meniscus don't grow back. So once you cut that flap out, all of a sudden you're down to 80%, 70%. And for a guy like Joel Embiid, who has a history of injuries, and he's 7 foot, extremely athletic, those meniscus, that's a cushion to protect your knee. And lateral meniscus is the weight-bearing side. So, unfortunate news for a number of different reasons, but, hopefully we can hope for the best-case scenario within this world.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and like you said, JB, what I'm curious from your perspective is there a way to just go in there and repair it right? Because that will give him more longevity long term. And if you're Joel Embiid, do you decide to go that route? Because at the end of the day, even if you do go the route of having it shaved off or trimmed, you're looking at maybe March, late March, early April, and you don't know where the Sixers will be. You don't know if you'll be able to even come back at that point. So you're risking that extra longevity that you may have with the other route.
Yeah, and I think every doctor would say we're going to try to repair this, especially for a guy like Joel Embiid who wants to play for another decade. But not every meniscus can be repaired. So that's the question there is if they can't repair it, then it just becomes a scope and they just wrap it out, cut the whole thing out. But, a guy like Joel, they're gonna find the best path forward for his longevity.
Well, one thing we do know, 1 to 2 months, this severely impacts the entire team here, Shams, and this is a team with expectations to make a deep run here in the playoffs. And so, with the trade deadline coming up, could this have any sort of impact on how the Sixers react?
From what I'm told, the Sixers are still being aggressive on the phones. They are operating as if they're a team that's being aggressive still in the trade market, trying to add maybe one more piece on their depth chart. So for Daryl Morey, he's always going to be aggressive. He's always going to be swinging for the fences. I think they will keep that going. But like you said, Brooke, this is just devastating for the Sixers because Joel Embiid is so valuable for them. And his meaning for this team on the offensive side, the defensive side, it's so big. I think there's obvious concerns in Philadelphia. Where will they be if it is the route of 1 to 2 months? When you're looking at late March, maybe early April, where could you be in the standings? I think that's got to be a concern.
Yeah, and so it's something that we're definitely going to keep an eye on. He was supposed to play in the All-Star game. Obviously, he's going to be a replacement there, but there's plenty of festivities to look forward to the All-Star weekend, including the three-point contest here between Sabrina Ionescu and Steph Curry. And so, Shams, what is the basketball world kind of saying about who they think is going to be crowned with this three-point contest?
Well, those are some big names. Damian Lillard has not shot the three ball as well this year, but he did win it last year, so he's got to be back to defend his title. But Jalen Brunson, I mean, he's had a great year shooting the three. I think this is obviously a star-studded list. I think some more all-stars will also participate. When you think about Donovan Mitchell, Karl Anthony Towns, Jason Tatum, I would look at those three as potentials to round out this list. So when you look at this group, I mean, obviously there's a couple non-all-stars in Lauri Markkanen, who was an all-star last year, and Malik Beasley, but the rest of the guys are all all-stars.
I'm excited about this one. It's one of my favorite events to watch because I feel like every football player at one point wanted to be a guy who could make it to the NBA. And the thing that a lot of us were missing was the shot. Couldn't hit the long ball to save our lives. These guys obviously doing it at a high level. Wouldn't it be something to watch a guy like Jalen Brunson, who has had a phenomenal year up to this point, got emotional about his selection for All-Star Weekend, come out and have a fantastic night shooting the three ball in front of all those fans there? I think this will be a fun one.
All right, well, during the three-point contest, the NBA, they're going to be testing out an all-LED court. Now, guys, we've never seen anything like this before. I think we have a video of it. So, Shams, what will you be looking forward to that? What are your expectations with this cool court?
This is my first time seeing it, Brooke. I mean, are they really going to have a 4-point line? I mean, that would be awesome. I would love to see a 4-point line in the 3-point contest. Actually, to be honest, this is my first time seeing it. I mean, it looks sick. I think a lot can be accomplished with this, but you know, I'm curious how it looks on TV for sure.
Well, yeah, how it's going to look on TV. And then if you're a player, like, is that going to make you dizzy? Right. Like,
it's going to be distracting. It's got to be distracting
while you're on the court, right?
It's got to be distracting. I'm sure a lot of this is for sponsors and things like that, but it's got to be distracting.
Right? Okay, well, I mean, it's sick. We appreciate the innovation there, but yeah, how is this going to impact the players and what they're able to do on the court? I guess we will find out. Shams, we always appreciate your insight. We will catch up with you later on. But coming up, we got a great show coming your way. We're going to talk some volleyball here. Molly McCage from the Vegas Thrill, she's going to join the show ahead of her first game in the Pro Volleyball Federation. Two of the best tight ends in the world will go head-to-head on Sunday. So lucky for us, we have an All-American tight end on set to break down this matchup. And the NHL All-Star Game was a wild affair. Even more wild if your name is Michael Bublé. We're going to share his story with you. That's coming up next.
I said, well, how hard can it be? Boys do it. And then I said, how hard can it be? Boys do it.
Oh, that's pretty good stuff right there from Molly McCage, who's a middle blocker for the Vegas Thrill. Joining us today on the rally. Molly, how you feeling?
Feeling good. How about you guys?
We're feeling pretty good
great.
over here, too. And first things first, we got to wish you a happy belated birthday. We saw that you celebrated your birthday over the weekend. So what are you looking forward to in year 30?
Well, I want to win a championship in the PBF season. That is first and foremost. I want to do well in the Athletes Unlimited season. I've already signed. And then I just want to keep pushing my limits and keep getting better and take care of my body, of course. I'm now hitting 30, so it's getting rough out here.
I know it's intimidating when you turn 30, but I will tell you, 30, I'm not going to say exactly how old I am, but I am in my 30s, Molly, and it's great. It's not that bad. You have a lot to look forward to.
Molly, on your path
That's
to
what I
winning
hear. That's what I hear.
So on your path to winning a championship, it starts with your first match, which is just 2 days away with the Vegas Thrill. What's been your impression of the Pro Volleyball Federation as you prepare to start the season?
You know, I've been really impressed. The fact that the first home opener for Omaha was over 11,000 fans, like, that's insane. I think that the in-court production has just been, they've done a really good job. Yeah, we had a practice and we had over 1,300 people come out. Like, this was just a practice. So I'm super pumped. I think the fans they've been waiting for this for decades, and PBF has done a great job of just giving it to them and putting on a show.
Molly, you were one of 2 middle blockers named to the preseason all-league team, and Asia O'Neal, she was the other one, and she was on the show just last week. So without giving away too much of your strategy here, what are the keys to going up against another dominant middle blocker?
Yeah, Asia O'Neal is one of my favorite middle blockers to watch. I absolutely respect her game in the college game, and I think it's going to transfer so well in this PBF season. I think just knowing that she's going to get set a lot, and we're going to have to be ready for that. I'm going to have to be quick laterally. I just have mad respect for her, and obviously she's a big block, so avoiding her, not hitting cross, hitting more line. Yeah, it'll be a good matchup.
All right, Molly, this is where we start to have a little bit of fun over here on the rally. Now, we saw that you majored in corporate communications at Texas. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're going to corporatize some key volleyball things. Are you ready for this? All right.
Yes.
Okay, so let's start with the post-spike scream reaction. Everybody's going crazy. What would be the corporate equivalent of that?
Oh, it's funny you said it, because I did have a corporate job before this. So I think it's and it was remote. So, the hype gets real in a Zoom room. I think maybe after like you've just dropped like a really solid presentation, you got the KPIs, like everything is just lining up, you're on a good trajectory, and then everybody just gives you virtual high fives. I think that's
I love that, virtual high five.
the most exciting.
Or like a thumbs up. I feel like that's very corporate, like.
We love the
Good
KPIs. We love the KPIs. All right, how about a team huddle?
Yes.
What's the corporate equivalent?
Oh, Zoom rooms. Yeah. I mean, I worked remotely, so it was a lot of just like we couldn't do a lot of face-to-face meetings. So it'd be or a last minute like Google Meet before the big Zoom, let's huddle up and make sure we're all aligned, and then we like hop onto the all hands call, and it's like, okay, like we huddled up.
That's a good sub right there. All right, and then how about last but certainly not least, the celebratory little butt tap? It's big in the sports world, so what's the corporate equivalent to that?
Yeah, it's not okay in the corporate world.
That will get you at HR.
HR.
Yeah.
You don't want a meeting with HR. It's gotta be, I think we just stick to fist bumps and high fives. We keep it pretty simple. I think everything's just like minimized in the corporate world, which is a shame, which is why I'm just gonna keep playing until my legs fall off.
It's the right thing to do.
Or a nice little pat on the back.
Yeah, a little pat on the back. It's the right thing to do is to keep playing. Jake and I were professional athletes, and of course our bodies gave out on us, so we're sitting over here, but we keep it fun on the rally, so we hope you had fun. That is Molly McCage, who's a middle blocker for the Vegas Thrill. Season starts for her on Wednesday. We appreciate your time over here on the rally.
Thanks so much, guys. Happy to be here.
All right, Toronto, it was the place to be for everyone in the hockey world. And the main attraction just happened to be Michael Bublé. Yeah, we're going to talk about our guy, Michael, on the other side of the break. For all your NBA trade deadline needs, don't miss out on Stadium's trade deadline special. You can join Shams Shrani and Danny Green and more this Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern.
My buddy told me this is just a microdose of mushrooms, and he was lying. So I'll be honest, I thought I was in Blades of Glory for most of the time that I was out there until it sort of settled down, and then I realized, holy I am at the NHL All-Star Game.
All right, that was Michael Bublé, who's one of the captains of the NHL All-Star Game, and apparently he thought he was in, a movie for a second there. He had a big trip when it came to his mushroom. So did you peg him for a big shroomer?
That's a hell of a way to tee it up. No, I did not.
Is that what you
and
call
also,
it, shroomer?
you got to be like super big time to just be comfortable talking about your mushroom consumption in such a public forum.
It is being destigmatized a little bit, right?
It is.
Even the fact we're having the conversation. I guess I associate psychedelics with musicians, right? Like it's kind of a thing in general where, musicians, they like to get trippy a little bit, but what do you hear about? Bad trips all the time? He overdosed, and then he's like, wait a second, where am I right now?
Well, it is kind of funny because Will Arnett, he was another team captain. He was in Blades of Glory, so maybe he was just like zoned out and he saw Will Arnett and he's like, oh my gosh, we're in the movie, we're on the ice, like we're ice skating. I don't know what could have happened, but maybe it just enhanced his experience, right?
I don't know. It didn't sound enhanced.
I don't know. He seemed really stressed out about it. Maybe lay off the shrooms next time you're a captain at the All-Star game there. But let's switch gears and talk the NFL because the Super Bowl is coming up this weekend. And so the 49ers, they are giving all their coaches and players a Peloton bike and shoes as a reward for making the big game here. So according to the NFL rules, the maximum value a team can give is around $1,700. So do you think you could come up with a better gift for $1,700? Because I can't imagine NFL players using the Peloton very often.
Okay, so I own a Peloton, and guys work out in the off season, want to make sure that they keep their cardio up. But the idea that I get it as a gift is crazy. Like, you want me to be miserable using my gift? Absolutely not. So yes, I did come up with something much better. Now, you get to the Super Bowl, everybody's got to get on a plane. You got to travel, of course, and you want to make sure that everybody's got nice luggage when they go on the plane. So in my mind, why not get everybody a travel set from a brand like Toomey? They do a great job with their travel sets. So you get people the big luggage, they can check it when they get to the airport, get them a nice backpack that they can carry on to the plane with them, and then maybe a dop kit so they can put all their toiletries in there, make sure they've got their shaving cream in their razors, and comes out to about $1,620, so you come in below the $1,700.
You know, that's the gift that keeps on giving. You can't put a price on good luggage, especially when you're traveling every weekend for work anyways. You know, it's kind of like, did you ever do the gift exchanges when you were in the NFL?
Sure I did.
Right? What I would always buy is I would go get a nice watch, right? I love wearing watches. I wear it every day. I want to remember this experience every time I put on the watch. So go to a nice brand. You can probably get a deal, get something at a discount because you're going to be buying them for everybody, and just hook the team up with some nice watches.
I like that.
I like that. The travel one, that was really good because I love a nice piece of luggage, you know, when you get on the team plane. Yep. Joshua goes like this. Yep, that's what you do. Okay, I was thinking, thinking after the Super Bowl, when you go golfing, a lot of guys like to go get a nice set of clubs. And then if you have some money left over, maybe pay for like a round of golf at one of the nicest resorts or the golf courses. Maybe there in, California. You guys would know better than I do.
Absolutely. Maybe get the shoes, quarter zip, a nice hat.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I'm on it. Just thinking about, how you're going to enjoy the off season. I know you guys like to golf, but speaking of gifts, they did $1,700 wasn't enough to cover the price for Apple Vision Pro. It's coming in around $3.5K. So it really created a stir on social media because it just came out. So what are your first impressions? We saw it a lot at sporting events throughout the weekend.
Can I say I'm a little bit nervous about this, right? I've seen the movies. We've seen the TV shows. So I had the Oculus Quest, the Facebook one, right? I was not a fan. I'll say the Apple Vision Pro looks significantly upgraded. But it just, to me, feels like it's a little too clunky right now. I still feel we're a few years away from getting the maximum value out of this.
This is not for me. This is not for me. I don't want virtual reality. I don't want augmented reality. I want reality. I want to be where my feet are. I want to see what my eyes see naturally.
If they could hook you in those glasses right there, like what you're wearing, what if they could give you the tech in the glasses you're wearing right now? No?
I don't mind if it pops up every once in a while or something like that, but I don't want a screen constantly in my face. And just because we can, does that mean we should? Does that mean we should escape reality? And a lot of times the people that are coming up with this, they like probably screens in front of their face. So this works for them. But does this work for the general population?
So that was the other part that I was going to get into. I feel like we're already too tied to screens. And I look at my screen time when the report comes out every week, and I say I'm on my phone too damn much. And
now you gotta
sit in front of the TV, sit in front of the iPad. And it's like, am I going to live my life and literally with the screen attached to my face?
Yeah, you don't want that. No, I don't want that. No one wants that.
I like the Alexa. Then you can say, hey Alexa, if I want to know something or if I wanted to turn on my TV, I don't need. And you're going to walk around with these big old glasses on your face?
So you can't just use the remote to turn the TV on?
No, I mean, I can. I'm just saying, I don't use Alexa, but I think that's the extent.
I will say.
I don't trust
Did you see the multi-screens? How they were? You could watch the full slate of NFL games. Instead of Red Zone, you got every single game going on in virtual reality.
All right, now you might be talking to me.
It's too much.
That is one use I would get out of it.
But we saw them. Okay, so we saw you can sit at home and you can watch it on the screen. But then I saw some people at the actual games with the Vision Pro on.
That's out of control.
I feel like you shouldn't leave the house with those on your face.
Right.
I want reality to be reality, like you said.
What would Maddie and Natalie say if you guys left the house and you're like, all right, let's go?
I don't think she'd let me leave the house. She'd be like, get back in here. And I hope she would tell me to get back in here.
I know for sure Maddie would be like, you better sit those glasses down.
Seriously.
I'm walking 10 feet ahead of you. Okay, coming up, maybe we should ask Annie Hagar her opinion on the Vision Pro. She's out at Radio Row for the Super Bowl, so she's going to join us to tell us what's going on out there in Vegas. That's coming up next. back to the rally. Listen, we've seen a flurry of coordinator hires over the last week. So one fan actually applied for the Packers defensive coordinator job. And Packers president Mark Murphy, he sent this as a reply here. I'm not going to read all of it. It says, thanks so much for your cover letter and resume regarding our defensive coordinator position. While your fantasy football experience is very impressive, I regret to inform you that we have decided to go in a different direction. I hear the Bears have an opening. You look like a perfect fit for them. I don't know how I would take that.
That's shade.
How should he take that? The Bears have I think you'd be a perfect fit for them.
I mean, if you're the Bears is an organization or a Bears fan, that is shade. If you're this guy, you're like, oh, I am qualified to be an NFL coordinator. Awesome.
If you're me, I love it. I think we need a little bit more of that. It's harmless. It's not that big of a deal. It's fun to poke fun at your rivals.
You got to respect the confidence, though, to email the president and the Packers and be like, hey,
that's getting out, right?
An impressive fantasy. I'm a great game manager. I'm a great manager in fantasy football. So, because that's definitely comparable there. But listen, let's take a serious dive here into the coordinator hires across the NFL here. So, JP, I'm going to send you over to the old confidence meter.
Right on.
And what are your thoughts?
Okay, so we've got 4 coordinators up here, plenty to dig into. So let's start here with Luke Getsy. He was a former coordinator, offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. Now he's out there with Vegas. And this one's a hard one for me because you can make an argument that it was as much him as it was Justin Fields as an issue for the Bears offense. I would also say that when you have a quarterback with the skill set of Justin Fields, you really got to lean into it. He certainly didn't. And quite frankly, his claim to fame is he coached Aaron Rodgers. And guess what? That guy could coach himself. So for me, I'm feeling like this is a pretty low confidence hire. Where are you guys at?
I think I'm going to completely agree with you there. Maybe medium, just because I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. It's more uncertain for me because, hey, you coached Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if you're good or bad. Right. I just know you coached Aaron Rodgers. Right. Okay, you didn't get it done with Justin Fields. Well, this is a prove-it opportunity for him because now you know where to run, know where to hide. This has his fingerprints all over it.
Well, they got to get the quarterback right out there in Vegas, too.
Yeah, no, I was going to say give him a pass here, a little more confidence because of the name there and Aaron Rodgers, and he worked with him.
Okay, so let's move on to Greg Roman. Now, it's rumored that he's going to be the offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Chargers out there with Jim Harbaugh. That has not been confirmed quite yet, but we do know they have history together. He was with Jim Harbaugh when he was the coach of the Niners, did a wonderful job. They're masterful with some of the run schemes, did a great job in Baltimore as well under John Harbaugh, coaching Lamar Jackson to that first MVP. Again, some really good run games there. I feel very confident about this for multiple reasons. Number one, Jim Harbaugh, direct guy. You know exactly what he's going to be offensively. But second off, the familiarity, because I think it takes a special person to work with Jim Harbaugh and to be successful with Jim Harbaugh. He's got that covered, and he's a good coach anyway.
You know why I like this hire? They have an identity now. Jim Harbaugh has an identity. You bring in Greg Roman, he has an identity. They're going to emphasize, I get it, you have a young quarterback you're excited about. Man, what helps a young quarterback is a nice run game and an identity. And what's the word you think of when the Ravens step on the field? Tough, right? Yeah. Tough. Yeah. So for those reasons, I'm loving this hire.
And that's been the biggest criticism for the Chargers is the fact is that they don't have an identity. Who is this Chargers team? Bringing in a guy like Harbaugh and somebody that's familiar with his coaching style.
Okay, so let's talk about Cliff Kingsbury here. He was supposed to take the Raiders job, and he ends up with the Commanders. Now, he's got a very unique resume as a coach. In college, he coached Baker Mayfield, did a wonderful job with him. Coached a guy in Patrick Mahomes, did a wonderful job. Did the same thing Johnny Manziel early on. So it feels like he is a guy who's a quarterback whisperer, okay? But then you start to dig into it. When he was a head coach with the Cardinals, that tenure did not go well. One of the things he struggled with was offensive play calling, which is crazy as a guy who's a quarterback whisperer. But then everybody's talking about, well, you know, he was on the USC staff. He had Caleb over there. Could this be the connection? It's the only reason why I'm going to say that this is medium is maybe you get yourself a generational quarterback in there, and he's only been good as a coach with generational type quarterbacks. But I don't have confidence again, it's like coaching Aaron Rodgers. Okay, you coach Patrick Mahomes. Okay, you coach Johnny Manziel. Okay,
Mahomes, yeah,
Well,
right.
we can't really judge his head coaching because a lot of times you talk about guys, yeah, they're good coordinators, but they're not very good head coaches. But I mean, you talk about he's the quarterback whisperer. Where you talked about Caleb Williams,
That's what
the
they
fact that
say.
the Commanders could possibly take him. There's already that chemistry between these guys. Caleb Williams, could he be that franchise quarterback to take the Commanders to the
You
next
have to go get Caleb Williams
Yeah.
though now,
Yeah.
right? All the dominoes are falling into place. I like that they have a plan. You just got a new head coach. Now you got your play caller. Go out and get your franchise quarterback and give it 3-4 years to develop. At that point, it's going to be on the coaching staff.
Okay, and then finally, we've got Steve Belichick here. It's obviously
mullet.
Bill Belichick's son. He's going to be the coordinator at the University of Washington. Interesting career here. He had only coached under his father with the New England Patriots. Now he gets an opportunity outside of New England with somebody else who coached with Bill Belichick in Jed Fish. He called the plays defensively for the Patriots for the last few years, even though he wasn't the DC in title. And they actually had some good defenses. Really wasn't the problem there. The biggest question, what translates to college, right? Now I'm going to go medium high here because I actually do think that he's very talented. And if he's got any questions, he can just call his dad on the phone. But when you go from the NFL to college, you better be a phenomenal teacher, and you got to get that playbook a little bit skinnier so those guys can digest it all.
I think this is a spot-on order. I like where you put this. So let's go to a few teams last year. Michigan had their defensive coordinator who came from the NFL.
Yep.
Notre Dame had a defensive coordinator that came from the NFL. UCLA's defensive coordinator, who's now at USC, all came from the NFL. So three of the top defenses had an NFL background become their play caller, and it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, and I think, the mullet just gives me like he's just can be a player's coach, right? The fact that he can relate to the younger
like
guys, I would hope so. But yeah, I think this is an interesting move here. He's already proved what he can do there in New England, so we'll see how that translates over to college ball in Washington. All right, well, let's keep talking some NFL because I guess we kind of have a big game this weekend.
Do we?
Yeah, the Super Bowl out in Las Vegas. So our very own Annie Agar, she joins us now from the field out there. Annie, how's it going?
It is great, you guys. I could not be happier to be out here.
Yeah, so just talk about, I know it's early, right, into the Super Bowl week here, but just kind of walk us through the atmosphere and what have you seen so far?
Yeah, it's, I'm on sacred ground right now. I'm in Allegiant Stadium, although it's not that sacred if Josh McDaniels was out here. But the vibe is kind of more chill today. You know, Monday, everybody's getting in. Radio Row is a little bit slower. But opening night really kicks it off, which is what's happening behind us tonight. So I think that's what the energy will really pick up.
All right, so you mentioned opening night. It's one thing that's on your schedule, but give us a rundown of the rest of the week. What are you expecting?
Good question. So starting tonight will be opening night, and then tomorrow we're going to do some Radio Row stuff, a lot of interviews, a lot of just connecting with everybody. They bring a lot of former players in and current players on Radio Row, so it's just going to be a lot of picking out the big names and doing interviews and having some fun with the guys. I'm going to go to NFL Honors on Thursday, so that's always a great time too. So it should be a good week. I'm excited.
What are you looking forward to most? You got a full schedule there, but what's the biggest thing for you?
Obviously not the game, right? We're all very excited about that. I think other than NFL Honors, because it's so cool to see everybody all dressed up and everybody in the same area. I'm going to go to the commissioner's party on Friday. And I have a couple rules I want to run by him, so that might be fun too. But I'd probably say one of those, NFL Honors or the party on Friday.
Well, Annie, it sounds like a busy week just in terms of work. Of course, there's, your fun, it's networking. So how do you plan on maintaining your endurance this week?
That's a great question. A lot of energy drinks. I'm just kidding. I don't drink energy drinks. A lot. People laugh at me because they're like, "This has got to be your first Super Bowl because you have so much energy. You're so excited." Because people who have done like 12 or 13 of these things, like they're exhausted right now. But I think I'll just play off everybody else's energy and the energy of the players, and I'm sure Travis Kelce will bring something. So it'll be good.
All right, so I know people are just starting to trickle in here, but who do you think is like the king of Radio Row? Like, is there a hierarchy to the people that you're going to see out there?
That's a great question. It has to be Pat McAfee. Nobody else has brought in a rapper to sing during Radio Row. Pat did that, I think it was 2 years ago in LA. I think it was Wiz Khalifa. And I just heard music from Radio Row, and everybody's doing interviews, right? It's pretty strict. And then Pat brings in Wiz and starts singing, and if that doesn't crown him the king of Radio Row, I don't know what will. I'm not topping that.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be an awesome week. Of course, it is the Super Bowl, right? This is the granddaddy of them all in terms of the NFL. What would be your one goal you're hoping to get accomplished this week?
I'm hoping to show people, because not everybody can go to these Super Bowls. I'm hoping to show everyone what kind of the behind the scenes is, what they would experience if they came out to one, especially in Vegas. I mean, so much is going on that we don't even see if you're coming to the actual game. The whole week leading up to it is all the craziness before. So I'm hoping to show followers and put content out there so they can see what a Super Bowl is really like.
All right, well, the festivities are just getting started out there in Vegas, and Annie Agar, she's going to keep us updated throughout the entire week. Annie, have fun, but not too much fun, all right?
Definitely not. I'm going to pace myself.
There you go. There you go. All right, well, you know, we're talking Super Bowl, but guys, the Senior Bowl was over the weekend, and Spencer Rattler, he won MVP. Michael Penix was also honored as the top performing quarterback. So overall, what do you make of the quarterbacks this week?
It was an interesting week when it came to the quarterbacks because of the buzz that was coming out of there. Like during the week, and I think maybe expectations had something to do with this, but, you know, Michael Penix Jr. up and down day, Bo Nix, things not really connecting for him. But then it's like, oh, but Spencer Rattler had himself a day today, and Joe Milton looked phenomenal today. And we watched that game. Joe Milton did not look good for the people out there who are wondering. So I think expectations probably play into this for, you know, if you're a guy who might be a first-round talent, they're going to grade you a little bit harder. I think Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr. are going to be perfectly fine, but it was definitely illuminating to see them out there outside their comfort zone.
I think depending on the position you play is how much value you can get out of a week like this. Because if you're a quarterback, so much of this is timing. You want to learn the reads, your footwork. I mean, this is just a flash in the pan. You're installing a playbook, you're meeting these guys on the fly, and you're just kind of guessing out there. So it's understandable if quarterbacks aren't completely perfect. But then there's other positions. Like if I'm a wide receiver, can I separate on my route? Like that transfers today, tomorrow, and into the NFL. So I would put more value into the film I've watched of these guys than the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, players, they're getting out of their comfort zones a little bit, but it allows just, you know, scouts to see that, hey, put their talent on display and what they can do in moments like this here. So we were talking about the quarterbacks, but let's take a look. We had the full screen up just a little bit ago of just other honors that were handed out. You talked about wide receivers. I mean, who stands out to you from this list, JP?
I'm going to give you a few guys. So Marshawn Lloyd, who's a running back. He was out of USC. Phenomenal this year. I know people look at that as a passing offense, but I'm glad he got his shine because he really stood out when I looked at their tape. Ladd McConkey's a guy who we talked about last week, and I thought that he was going to get a little bit of the unathletic, can't do it type of tag, and he showed people why he should be a high draft pick. And then the two defensive linemen on there, Michael Hall Jr., who played at Ohio State, Braden Fisk, who played at Florida State. Michael Hall showed that even as a guy who weighs 280 pounds playing on the interior of a defensive line, he can be disruptive. He plays with power. He's a guy who is certainly coachable. That stands out. And then Fisk did what he did all year, and that was terrorize people. He plays with extreme violence. That's going to translate regardless.
You know, for a smaller guy like Michael Hall, this is a guy that I'm talking about benefits from this week because the scouts get to see how quick he is in person. And he had some really nice moves that were going around on social media. His quickness is what's going to separate him. And the trench play in general, I think, stood out. You know, Daniel Jeremiah, who's a longtime former NFL GM, right? He said, if your team needs offensive linemen, this is the draft for you. I know it's not sexy, but I believe a lot of teams would benefit from building from the inside out. Get your trench play in place, and then everything else falls into place. If you can protect your quarterback and run the football, a lot of good things are going to happen.
We talked about quarterbacks that stood out to you, maybe in a good and a bad way. We talked about some guys that were honored at other positions there, but was there a player that, you know, you're like, I actually, I'm very impressed with what I saw from him. Maybe he didn't receive an honor, but he really took it up a notch.
Well, there are two guys who I think didn't get a lot of recognition during the season because of where they played, and that's Christian Haynes, who's an offensive lineman from UConn. I think his stock shot up, and he's a guy that people are now looking at nationally because of his performance. And then Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo, the cornerback. They said he was out there terrorizing. I know there's a clip of him kind of getting cooked by Roman Wilson on some one-on-ones, but they said body of work throughout the week. This guy can play with anybody, even though he came from a lower level of football.
What position do you think I'm going to say I like to evaluate here?
Yeah, give some love to the tight end.
Tight end, and we'll stay in the Big Ten.
Sure.
Theo Johnson is a guy, look, they had two great tight ends at Penn State this year, so he's not going to have massive production. And of course, Drew Aller struggled to push the ball downfield, but there was a lot of buzz coming out of the Senior Bowl that Theo Johnson stood. He's about 260 pounds, a little bit under it, but moves really well. He's a natural pass catcher. And as we'll talk about throughout the show, tight end is becoming a match-up benefit for great offenses. All 4 teams in championship weekend and the 2 Super Bowl teams have great tight ends. A good tight end could be a huge difference maker for your organization.
All right, well, a lot of these guys are trying to show their talents at the Senior Bowl as they look ahead to potentially make careers in the NFL. But one name that we know for sure we're going to see in the NFL, and that is Caleb Williams. And we're going to dive deeper into his future in today's Say It Louder. Now, there's some rumors that, he may be going to the Bears. Obviously, is that #1 overall pick there. But there's more rumors now that Cliff Kingsbury was hired as the offensive coordinator here, that he could be going to the Commanders. So what do you believe when it comes to Caleb Williams and the Bears?
Nothing. Right? Like, what am I to believe? The Bears they have a conundrum here, and I'll just break it down to the simplest terms of the way I think about this is, you're right now, there is pressure on Washington to feel like they need to trade up. And so for the Bears, the question starts at, do we actually trade down with Washington, and maybe a couple of times throughout this draft? And that relies on the fact of, well, do I feel like Justin Fields is the guy? And then if he's not the guy, am I okay being the general manager who passed on Caleb Williams, especially if he balls out somewhere else, for Justin Fields if he does not become the guy? That's question number 1. Then question number 2 is, okay, what are our options after that? Like, let's say we actually, we don't make the move, we go ahead with Justin. Do we feel like we can build what we need around him? I feel like they probably could, but again, how confident do they feel in the quarterback? And then if they do make the move, where do you go? Like what do you actually do? It's a big conundrum for me.
The question of saying, is Justin Fields the guy, is the reason why, if I'm the Bears, I'm not drafting Caleb Williams. Like, if you thought Justin Fields was the guy, you should have had organizational alignment and continuity to be able to answer that question. But what you really hampered Fields' early career growth. How many different play callers has he had already? How many different head coaches? How many different GMs? How much roster turnover has there been? How can you sit here and say Justin Fields is or isn't the guy at this point? It's been a volatile start to his career. At least what Washington is trying to do right now is have that alignment. They have their head coach. They're hiring a play caller with familiarity to Caleb Williams. So at least they can say, if that marriage happens and Williams goes out there to Washington, in 3 years, we'll be able to distinctly say, yes, he is a franchise quarterback or not.
Yeah, there's so many questions surrounding the Bears right now. It's a tortured franchise, to say the least. And then having that #1 overall pick, what direction are they going to go? I'm sure this isn't the last time.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah,
it's a good problem.
You're right.
Is it a good problem?
I think you have all the leverage in the world right now.
I feel like these are the types of problems that get GMs fired. Personally.
Right. Well, like I said, this is not the last time.
If you miss him and he balls out, maybe. Yes.
All right, enough quarterback talk here. We got to talk about 2 tight ends we're going to see over the weekend. Arguably the 2 best tight ends in the entire league. So our tight end here on the show, Jake, he's going to take a look at this matchup coming up next. We're gearing up for the Super Bowl this weekend, and two players that are expected to get a lot of action, Travis Kelce and George Kittle. These are arguably two of the best tight ends in the entire league. So, Jake, I mean, you are resident tight end here. So if you had to pick one of them, who you taking?
You know, this is not going to be a great answer. I would say it depends, though, because though these guys are both great, it depends on what offense you're running.
Fence rider.
All right, I would pick Travis Kelce. I think he's the greatest tight end of all time.
Thank you.
But look at how the difference in the offenses. The Niners want to be physical first, and though the Chiefs want to be physical, the Niners want to run the football. Kittle is asked to be a bruising blocker. He's a throwback guy, almost like a Rob Gronkowski. Then he can mix it up in the play action and beat you downfield. Whereas Kelce, he is not putting his hand in the dirt and blocking a 7-tech or a 6-tech consistently throughout the game. He affects the games in other ways, though he can still block when needed. I can't wait for this matchup. What I love watching specifically with Kelce is his relationship with Mahomes.
Yep.
Those guys are on a string together.
All the time.
And in the biggest moment, we know he's throwing 87's way. And I count on 87 coming down with the play.
Let me backtrack here just for a second. What is it when you say blocking a 7-tech or a 6-tech? What do you mean?
That's just the shade. And the numbers don't make sense, but all this means is a 0 and a 1 is the center, right? And you work your way out 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm all the way at the end. Now it's a 6 or 7-tech. So a guy's going to be lining up on me. That's a 7-tech. A 6-tech's going to be inside, and then the 9-tech is outside.
There you go.
It's all good shades for you. For some reason, you go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 6. Yeah.
Doesn't make any damn sense.
No.
All right, who are you taking, Joshua?
Oh, I'm going Travis Kelce. I've said this multiple times. I want to reiterate it ahead of the Super Bowl. That is the singular best player I have ever played against in my whole career.
George, but we got to give credit to George Kittle because he is very, very good. He's been good all regular season. But Travis Kelce, I mean, he's had 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. There's no denying what him and Patrick Mahomes, especially in the postseason, the chemistry, they just continue to roll with that here. But let's talk big picture of the Super Bowl here, because we know we're going to see those 2 guys get a lot of action. But when it rolls around, what needs to happen for you guys to just have a happy Super Bowl experience?
I think I got to watch the Nickelodeon feed, honestly, because
I'm
not exactly sure that I could watch the regular CBS broadcast. I mean, you know, there's going to be a lot of moaning and groaning. I don't know, Jim. The whole game, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it.
Okay, I need Tony Romo to lay out a couple times. I want to hear the crowd. That's all I'm asking Tony, just a couple times. And I'm hoping for good drama. I want to see some back and forth here.
Yeah, and I want Usher to have some good cameos in his halftime performance.
Sure. Important.
I need Lil Jon. I need Ludacris. I need all those guys out there. All right, we got to call Joshua out here. I'm just going to be very direct because Derek Jeter, he posted this on social media over the weekend here, and we know he's athletic, but he can't clearly do a cartwheel. So Jake and I, we stepped up on the clubhouse earlier today, all right? We were team players. If we did cartwheels on the show, Jake, it was good. It wasn't great, but it was good.
Yeah.
You stuck the landing. I did one as well, but Joshua, you chickened out. So you are a professional athlete. You're athletic. Will you do the cartwheel?
I don't know what chickening out means. I don't know how to do a cartwheel. I've literally never done a cartwheel in my life. Whoever made that lower is pissing me off right now, because I'm not afraid of cartwheels.
It's okay, we changed it.
Too weak to do a cartwheel is crazy.
Not afraid, too weak.
All right, come see me, whoever wrote that one, and see how weak I am, okay? Now I'm making threats on television.
Now, Joshua, I know that you never back down from a challenge.
I'm backing down from this challenge.
Well, but why?
Can somebody just demo it for me? I don't. Can you hold this real quick? How do I even do it? Can someone walk me through? Someone break my watch?
All you gotta do, you just put your
First one you want to balance, and then at that point, you're just going to throw your body over and rebound.
I'm just going to send it.
You got 20 seconds. Oh, I'm so proud of you.
Here we go.
Wow!
That was better than mine.
What are you talking about?
No, because somebody called me weak, and I am not weak. I want y'all to understand this about me.
I'm so
no
proud.
weakness.
Guys, have a good night.
You never done that before?
Never.
to Inside the Association, presented by FanDuel. Make every moment more.
Happy Monday, happy Monday, happy Monday, everybody. Welcome into a new week of Inside the Association. I'm your host, Cam Smith. Hopefully your weekend treated you well. I know mine did. So let's get right to your starting lineup and get it set. All right, first up, the Philadelphia 76ers and Chicago Bulls had an unwelcome visitor to their rosters in the form of the injury bug. What are the next moves for both teams ahead of Thursday's trade deadline? We'll break that down in a little bit. Next up, we're going to talk about Domantas Sabonis telling a legend in Oscar Robertson to make room for him on one of the Sacramento Kings all-time lists. Domantas Sabonis has been a true king for real. And finally, it was a party on Beale Street in D.C. over the weekend. Bradley Beal, in his first game back as a non-Washington Wizard, reminded fans of how lethal he is as a scorer. That's your starting lineup. Let's get to it. And we're going to start things off with Joel Embiid and the latest on the injury front with the big man. Now, according to our own Shams Charania, he reported today that Embiid will undergo a procedure on the meniscus in his knee, and the hope is that he misses 1 to 2 months. Now, if a full repair is needed in surgery, that's going to be a significantly longer recovery time. Let me welcome in my running mate, Harrison Sanford, host over at MSG Networks, and my teammate when it comes to 2v2 against Joshua Perry and Jake Butt of Red Corner, Blue Corner. Harrison, how you doing, man? How was the weekend for you?
Oh, the weekend was splendid, my friend. Cannot complain.